Hello and welcome. And this is another one of my 60 inspirational conversations with people that I have connected with in some way and have found inspiring. So I like to dive a little bit deeper into who they are, what they're up to, what they're doing in the world. And today I have a lovely lady named Jane Lewis. I have to confess to not knowing Jane very well, but we had a beautiful conversation and I said, oh my gosh, this conversation needs to carry on and needs to be a little bit public. So we decided to go for it. So Jane, do you want to tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and then let's see what unfolds from there.
All right. So I guess a little bit of context for your audience, that we met because I'm writing a book on forgiveness, and you've been kind enough to share your story of how forgiveness has helped turn your business and your life around.
Absolutely.
That was how we met. So that
Yeah.
we had a conversation. So forgiveness is one of my fields of expertise. Hopefully the book will be out. Well, I'm hoping the writing will be done by the end of March, and then there's all the stuff that goes on to actually get it into print.
Yes. It's quite a bit goes on behind the scenes. My daughter's a published author, and from the writing process till the book is on the shelf in the shops is yeah, there's a bit that goes on in between.
So yes, I'm a coach, and I've been a coach for the last 25 years or so. So when I started coaching was the Wild West. There wasn't much in the way of training, and there was a lot of do it yourself and a lot of different definitions of coaching, which has changed, and I'm glad it's changed. It's become a lot more professional. And I'm very passionate about the coaching profession and helping coaches to be good coaches and supporting coaches in that process, but it's not the main part of what I do. So my elevator pitch, an elevator pitch. So my elevator pitch is that I work with successful, spiritually aware women, business owners and leaders who are in some way facing their own glass ceiling. So it's helping them to move through the blocks using the pretty large toolkit that I've accumulated over the last 25 years or so. Prior to that, I worked in corporate. I was in sales and marketing, and then I got myself a master's in computing, and I went into more techie stuff and management consultancy and all that. And then ended up with clinical depression. And as part of my journey out of that, I discovered NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which was really helped me change my thinking, change my mindset. And through that, I discovered Huna, which is the ancient spiritual traditions of the Hawaiians. A lot of energy, Huna, and Ho'oponopono, which is the Hawaiian approach to forgiveness, of which there are many versions. It's one version, there are many versions. And that's where my interest in forgiveness started, because that was something that really helped me. I always say NLP got me out of depression. Huna's kept me out.
Yeah. It's great, isn't it? Because NLP was my starting point, and then definitely looking at it from a much more deeply spiritual perspective. Like you say, NLP, I don't think I would have gone to the deeply spiritual stuff straight away. That felt like a jump too far in a way, and NLP almost put it into normal everyday clothes. That's how I saw it when I came. Oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. But then it led me to a path of looking at more deeply spiritual things, and things like the power in forgiveness and gratitude and those kinds of things. It's huge. So would you tell us a little bit? I know you said there are many different ways of I can't say that, the Ho'oponopono. That one, yeah. I've delved a little bit into that, looked at that, because as you know, forgiveness has been a huge part of my journey. And I think all of us, when we start to look at our conditioning and who that conditioning, you know, learning to be, we're little spiritual beings who come here and learn to be human. And then once we sort of begin to see, I don't really want to say the error of our ways, but I guess, you know, where we're not serving ourselves.
Mm.
I think these, then looking to our spiritual nature and looking, and forgiveness, although it sounds very normal and everyday, well, which it is, but it is also something very deeply spiritual, isn't it? So
Oh yeah.
would you tell us a little bit about that side of things? And
So, gosh, there's so much in it. That's why I'm writing a book. Anyway, I guess the starting point is that forgiveness, it's almost like forgiveness has two faces. So there's the forgiveness of others, there's the externally focused forgiveness, and there's the forgiveness of self. Now, the psychologists have loads written about externally, you know, forgiving other people. They haven't been quite as productive in their study of forgiveness of self. It's a thing people kind of, there's just not the same level of understanding. But the truth is that when people offend us, hurt us, wrong us, whatever your word of choice is, or words of choice are in that, when we don't forgive them, when we hold on to the hurt, the desire for revenge, the anger, all those emotions that come with all that, they act like chains. They imprison us, they enslave us to the person who did the hurting. Because half the time, probably more than half the time, the person who did the hurting either isn't aware,
yeah,
or doesn't care, or that was then, this is now, that they've moved on. You know, life just moves. So when we keep ourselves in that state of revenge or hurt or anger or whatever, unforgiveness, as the psychologists call it, really we're giving our power away. They've still got power over us. And the gift of forgiveness in relation to other people is that we take back our power. It's genuinely empowering, because we take back our power. They no longer have power over us. But that's easy to say. Really easy to say. It can be a lot harder to do. And many of the people that I've worked with, and I've certainly found it myself, that it's the build up to the point of being willing to forgive, that takes ages. But once you get to the point where you are willing to forgive and you're ready, the actual forgiveness can, you know, it's like that. And there's work to be done, and you know, you forgive somebody over there, and then you realize there's somebody over there, and there's and of course, you know, new hurts, new things arise. And then there's self-forgiveness. And I think very often a lot of people find it harder to forgive themselves than they do to forgive others. And that, you know, shame is a particular thing where when you forgive yourself for doing or being the thing that you are ashamed of, then the shame just vanishes. But you have to get to the point, firstly, of knowing what you're ashamed of. And I've certainly had that experience. There's some, as part and parcel of writing the book, some stuff has come up which I wasn't aware of, that I'm ashamed of, or I was ashamed of. And when I look at it and I think about it and I understand it, it's like, wow, that does hold me back.
Yeah.
I'm aware I can do the work, but half the time we may not even be aware. Sometimes we are, but this is old stuff that I had no awareness was there, and suddenly it's like, ooh, work to be done.
I love that our life shows us these things. Like for me, when I work with people, what it's about taking an honest, non-judgmental look at your life, because like you said, you were unaware of what it was necessarily that was holding you back. But we can see that we're being held back, though. We can look at ourselves and think, well, I know that I know that I'm capable of doing better. And I know particularly when we talk to you work with business people and things like that, but we can see it in it reflects everywhere, doesn't it, really? But but seeing, yeah, I know I could do better than that in my business, or I know I could, my relationship could be better than that, or whatever it is. So I think our life tells us the story that there is something in there.
Yeah.
And one of the things I know when I came across the idea of forgiving and saying the words, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, those kinds of things, even when I wasn't fully aware of what it was, just the process of that, of being forgiving of myself and forgiving of the judgments I held of myself. And I feel like, we are so amazing as human beings. How we work is there is so much of how we work that is in our favor that we miss. And a little bit like you said, when you started delving into this direction, things began to be uncovered for you. And I've really noticed that for myself when I am kind of saying, right, okay, I can see I'm not doing as I know I am more capable of that. And, could be business, could be personal, whatever. It's like, I know that I have more to give here. I know that there's more of me here. And the minute I am prepared, there's almost a right, okay, show me, I'm ready to see. And it's almost like the self-writing mechanism in us kind of says, yeah, okay, I'll gently shine a light on where it is you've judged yourself, you've judged someone else, where this little bit of poison is being held in you. Have you had a similar experience? Would you say that is what's been your experience of it?
I've had quite a few experiences with forgiveness, different way, shapes, and forms. I think one of the things that I did come to realize is that when you forgive other people, you do end up forgiving yourself. Because if you accept the premise, and not everybody does, but if you accept the premise that we are all reflections of one another, so my experience of you will reflect something in me. I see it through my prism, through my lens, through my filters. Other people will see you through their prisms and lenses. So everything I perceive is actually a reflection of me to some level. And understanding that, and then doing forgiveness work with somebody and realizing as part of that process, because I use the process, the Ho'oponopono version that I teach is a little different from the one that Joe Vitale has made popular. And there's no right or wrong about that.
No.
There is, it's simply a question of, there are many versions of Ho'oponopono in the Hawaiian Islands because different families did it in different ways. So, there's not one truth. The Hawaiians have this great saying, there are many paths to the light.
I think that is true across the board, and everything, why I love having these conversations and sharing different ways is, and all the time I would take what resonates. If something doesn't resonate, just leave it and move on. Don't worry about it. And at some point, different things resonate. I can definitely see, as we spoke about on our journey, there was a time when NLP resonated. It doesn't particularly resonate with me now. I'm much more into the spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
It was part of a journey to there.
Yeah.
So we all have different resonances at different times. And like you say, different families and different ways. Absolutely, there is not one way. And if someone is doing it differently, that doesn't make it wrong.
Absolutely. It's the end result that counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know when I first started, there were quite a few. So in the way that I practice it and now teach it, you set up a stage. And there are various versions, but you can bring everybody who you've ever had contact with onto the stage. Nowadays, I just stick the entire planet. I just say everybody on the planet on the stage. and just forgive them. My unconscious mind knows where the work needs to be
Typically,
done.
yes.
But what I'd find is I'd create a stage and I'd bring everybody on. And there were a few ex-boyfriends, ex-lovers, ex-partners who wouldn't leave the stage. It's like, okay, work to be done with you then.
Mm.
And that certainly in the early days when I was working with it, there were several who they just wouldn't go when I invited them to leave. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I know there's work to be done. And there was, because in the way that I teach it and do it, you call a person or a group of people onto the stage and you have a conversation with them. And the conversation is, I forgive you, please forgive me. And each of you says in your head what each needs to say in order for the forgiveness to be complete. So I'm saying what I need to say, and then I'm listening to what they have to say to me.
Mm.
And that is so powerfully revealing sometimes. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, okay. Right, okay. But other times it's like, oh, I I didn't know, I didn't realize, I didn't, you know. So that's been powerful on a number of occasions. And then the other thing that we do in this particular process is once all the forgiving's done, or as good as you can, actually cutting the energetic cords with them, so that you can, if you want to, you can reconnect, but it's in a new context. And it's almost like you've cleaned the slate.
Yes, yeah.
And now there's the space for new ways of moving forward.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I've known of people who have had really changed their lives around, done the work, whatever, and then family members or old friends or people don't see them differently yet. They can't necessarily see. So definitely that, when it's like, right, okay, there is something to be done there to allow people to see them differently if they want to, or like you say, but yeah, end this this way of, because we tend to have patterns, don't, like when we have relationships, when we're in relations with other people, whether it is a personal relationship, families, friends, lovers, whatever, or whether it is work related relationships, we tend to form patterns with how we are with these people. So when you were saying that, it's kind of like, yeah, sometimes I know a past version of me has formed a relationship with someone, and it's like, yeah, I actually I want that to be different now because I'm different. It's like we need to reestablish who we both are in this relationship and be different. So the cutting of those ties and allowing ourselves to show up as someone different, that's hugely powerful.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the other piece, this is possibly the hardest piece, is that sense of there but for the grace of God. I mean, even the most appalling things that people have done, the most appalling crimes that people have committed. So Cool Matt James, who's my teacher, he says, I could say I would never kill anybody, but if somebody did something to, and then this is a very evolved guy, he said, but if somebody did something to my kids, I can't guarantee that I wouldn't go out and kill them if I had to.
Yeah.
We have, it's bad. We have the potential for good. We have the potential for evil. You choose which path you go.
Yeah, that to me is it. That's our free will, isn't it? And I remember speaking to, I know his name's Bill, but I can't remember his other name. But he was a powerful coach, and he was working with prisoners. And at some point, I don't know exactly when, but at some point, his daughter was raped, and that actually showed him. Then, when he was working with the prisoners, he could really see, I could easily be in your position, because I could kill someone, or you know, he really saw it, and he actually worked with a, a few rapists, and he said we had amazing conversations because I spoke frankly and honestly about my perspective, and he said they had never stopped and considered that, you know, from their world and where they were coming. And I guess a part of this work and what I see is our world is made up of the thinking we have, the meaning we make of that thinking. And I know for me, one of a huge realization, a good while back now, but a huge realization was that other people don't live in the same world as me, you know, different realities. It was like, and we get very, very confused about why people act the way they do and do the things they do, because we're coming from the thinking we have. And it's like, well, I would never do that. It's like, well, with that thinking, you wouldn't. But if you had that person's experience and thoughts, then you would. And so I think, yeah, it is. And it was hearing him and listening to him that you've just said, then I realized, yeah, we all have the potential within us. If I had the thinking that that person had and the experience that that person had, I would murder, rape, pillage, whatever. You know, I have the capacity within me to do that, given that thinking. And definitely then there is some gratitude and there, but for the grace of God, and seeing actually, you know, when I do the work, when I forgive, when I do, it is less, I see my thinking gets more and more healthy. So the likelihood that I'm going to choose evil, you know, the likelihood that I'm going to choose to get back at someone or do something like that lessens the more that I do this work and see that. So to me, that's another huge benefit of forgiveness, and seeing, yeah, the capacity we all have to do anything that any other human being does. We have the capacity within us somewhere to do that.
Yeah. I think, I mean, and it's also important to say that that doesn't make things right. I mean,
No.
a lot of people confuse forgiveness with condoning. It doesn't mean if somebody's hurt you and or a member of your family or whatever, you when you forgive them, you don't have to like them. You don't have to have anything to do with it. Well, sometimes you do because of circumstance, but there's no, it's not like, oh, well, I've forgiven them now, that means I've got to spend time with. No.
Got to be my best friend now we've forgiven.
No.
No.
And if somebody has committed a crime, murder, rape, or whatever, then yep, they should go to jail for it. It's not, it is absolutely, and it's so important that people get it. Forgiveness is not condoning bad behavior.
No, I think it levels the playing field. In, I think one of the mistakes we can make is believing that we are better. And this comes back again to the judgments and the forgiveness of my own judgments. It's like, oh, I believe I am better than you. I am superior to you. And I believe I am inferior to you. And I can see that with some of my, as I said, you know, showing up with different people, that the forgiveness and that, and cutting those ties and coming back is, I had started this relationship, and it could be either way, either with the belief that I'm better than you, superior to you, or I'm inferior to you. But I guess what forgiveness does for me is levels that playing field. But equally, you know, whether I am the one who has committed a crime or someone else has committed a crime, that doesn't, it doesn't condone, it doesn't say that is right, it doesn't say it doesn't, but it is just seeing, oh, right, okay. And I think with forgiveness, whether it's me that has done something that I feel, you know, needs forgiving, or somebody else, with forgiveness, even if there is a prison sentence to serve or something like that, or we don't, it still can clean that up so that that can be done in a clean, healthy way, so people can move forward. Because I know one of the things with whether it is rehabilitating prisoners or whether it is like the rehabilitation of ourselves, I can see I would have just continued doing the same thing, behaving in the same way, if I hadn't looked, forgiven myself and said, right, let's wipe that out and let's become someone different. Let's act differently, because we just continue to make the same mistakes if we don't clean it up with the forgiveness, don't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It is that, it's that cleaning of the slate so
Mm,
that you can move on. I mean, it's interesting because the restorative justice has become a big thing in work with prisoners now, where victims get to meet the person who burgled them or mugged them or raped them or whatever the thing is.
mm,
So they get to have a conversation. But when one I studied Lomi Lomi, which is Hawaiian massage in Hawaii at one point, and there was a woman who came to talk to us, and she was a big practitioner of Ho'oponopono um, in prisons, and
mm,
this was she'd been doing this since probably I think she'd started in the 50s and 60s, working in prison. She was a social worker, but working in prisons using Ho'oponopono, the forgiveness process, to get forgiveness, and they do what they do what they call a pono meeting. So pono means right, as in calm, centered, balanced, right with the world, right with you, right with, it's that kind of right. So that's pono. Ho'o means to make, so it's to make right. And then in the Polynesian languages, if you double the word, it makes it doubly right. So ho'oponopono means to make it really, really, really right.
I like it.
And there's also, and I'm not sure if this is linguistically true, but to me, it also feels like there is with the doubling of the word, a two-way thing. Forgive me,
Mm,
forgive you.
yes, yes, yeah.
And what this lady, on Auntie Mona, not Auntie Morna, who was the one that Joe Vitale, his lineage comes from, but Auntie Mona, what she was doing was she would be putting what they now do with restorative justice, putting the victim and the perpetrator together, having what they call a pono meeting, a pono conversation, so that we are right both ways. We say what we need to say. Everybody concerned says what they need to say, so that it's done. So the Hawaiians have been using that process for a long time
Mm,
within the justice system, and they do it in the culture. So if you've got something going on in the family, and I've been to some of these meetings. If you've got a group of people, any kind of group, you get to a point where there's and if in family, for example, an elder in the family will sit everybody in the family who's involved in that, sit them down, and you go around and everybody says what they have to say, and
mm,
you keep going, and you do not stop until everybody has absolutely said everything they need to say, so that you can walk away honor with one another. And these meetings can take a long time.
wow, wow. You can really see the power in those things, because you can see how within families it's very easy for people meaning well to do something, and then someone else behind their back says to someone, oh, I don't like the way they've done that. And these are people who care for each other, who love each other, and nobody wants anything but but everybody to be happy. But that whole actually, and I think sometimes just having that space to allow people to voice those
Yeah,
things. It's just like, because sometimes when we do say something potentially behind someone's back, if someone is doing something with the best of intentions or whatever, and then someone says, I don't like what they're doing and they shouldn't be doing. And it's almost like, yeah, come on my side, come on, think what I think. And there's almost can also sometimes be a fear of, what it is you want to say, because potentially someone is very strong in their ideas that what they are doing is right and the right thing. So having that safe space, I guess, to
yeah,
come together and express, what we are feeling in those ways. That's so, so precious, isn't it? And I don't think in many families we actually have that opportunity to just safely be able to express ourselves in that way.
Well, I think as well, we've got so, especially in the West, we've got so we don't say what we're feeling. We don't, you've offended me in some way, and I don't because I mean, in a Pono meeting, the elder is facilitating and ensuring that what needs to be said is said in a respectful way
Yeah,
to all.
in a respectful way on all sides.
But it's like the talking stick. If you've got the stick, if you're in a meeting, you've got the talking stick. You keep talking, and if it's my turn to say what it is that I need to say, then I get the space to say it. And creating that space for people to respectfully say what it is that's bugging, hurting, wounding, offending. It's so precious. And with the world that we live in, we talk about, we seem to have less and less time. We're on our devices and our gadgets, and the expectation is everything will be done much quicker and our attention spans much shorter. It's much harder to create that space for a proper consideration of the issues.
Mm. What I can really see in that is as I spoke about earlier, said, we all live in our own thought created world. And so no two of us live in the identical reality. And I think even when we know that, I'm aware of that now, but even so, I think everything that you're talking about there and sitting down, it's kind of like, yeah, remember, I see this differently to you, because I think we just forget, we know it on some level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's built into our language. When we do things, it's like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? So if we have these crazy moments. So there's an element that we know that, but moment to moment living. And when we see something and we see somebody doing something and we know, like, it can be very easy, can't it, to look at other people and see what's going on for them and potentially know what and genuinely know what could really help in this situation.
Yep.
But it is like that person, for that to be helpful, it has to make sense to that person, and that person has to see it in a way that makes sense to them. Whereas it's very, very easy, and especially with people we love and care for or work with, or we're in these, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, Jane, for goodness sake, do this. It makes so much sense. And then it's kind of like, well, no, it doesn't make sense to me, and I don't, and this kind of thing. And yet, if we could make that space, and actually, I think there's something huge in the time to listen to each other as well. It is so healing to kind of have this, right, okay, and again, this is exactly what you're talking about, that space to be heard, to be like, okay, so this is what is going on for me, and I'll get there in my own time, but I'll do it in my own way, and don't force me into it or tell me whatever it is. But yeah, I think there is a genuine forgetting, and not from a malicious, and I don't think it starts from a malicious place, but a genuine forgetting of your reality is actually different to mine. So you're not actually seeing what I am seeing, and me forcing you to see that is not helpful.
And to be fair, there are times when it does start from a malicious place, because it is, it's the wonderful complexity of human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are times when, with the best, if we all, no matter how good we think we are,
We all have all capacities.
I know I've done things. I know that I've deliberately done things that will annoy somebody else, or
Yeah,
they make me feel, because
don't tell anybody, but so have I. Yeah.
it's we're humans, but hopefully, I hope now I think as a kid, I probably did some pretty malicious things from time to time. But hopefully now that I'm not malicious, I'm not
Mm.
malevolent
Mm.
in my intent, although I never know how it will land.
No, no, we can't know that, can we? And I definitely think, yeah, like the potential to give people space where it's needed, and allow, and then, because sometimes we we don't always find out straight away how it's landed until something whether it's landed well or not. And I know one of the things for me when I came across the three principles is what I base a lot of what I do on, which is a spiritual understanding. I know I could see so many, my children and members of my family, who I could, wow, if you knew this. And it was almost like, I got very preachy, I got very immersed, I got very cornering them at every opportunity and ramming it down their throat, and then at some point I began to see the error of my ways, and I began to see, right, okay, then live this yourself and let people come to
Yes.
you. And because this whole, oh, you should, if you thought this way and if you did this differently, and it's like, okay, so you be the leader in that. You think differently, you do something differently,
Yeah.
you show up differently, and allow them to see the benefits of that, and then maybe get curious. And it's a much more it's a much better approach. It works much better.
Yes, the number of times either I've been on a course and come back an evangelist, or I've had friends who've been on a personal development course and come back as evangelists. And you only really get to see it when somebody else does it to you. You know, the friends come back as evangelists. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I do that too. I've done that.
Yeah, and that comes back, I guess, again, to seeing that people reflect things to us, don't they? People show us, other people are gifts. They're great gifts to show us both who we want to be and who we don't want to be. And I really see that with people. It's like, oh yeah, that's a gift. I know that's not how I want to be, and oh yeah, that's a gift. Actually, I'm going to be like that. So people are a huge gift in that way, I think.
Yeah, and very often we don't see ourselves as others see us.
No, I guess not.
Sometimes it takes the interaction with another person to see ourselves in that kind of externally facing, I see
Yes.
myself from in here.
Yeah.
And it's only when I really start to interact with somebody else that I actually see it. I see myself from over there.
Mm. And for me, I see that those things get easier as we understand separate realities, forgiveness, and, in those processes, actually listening to what someone else is saying, you do see yourself. It is like, oh, okay, I came across like that, did I? Oh, that's what you thought I was saying, was it? Or in all ways. So yeah, it is. And I think with an understanding that of forgiveness, we get, because it can be very, very hard to hear what someone else is saying if we are so in that space in our heads where we haven't forgiven, we're holding on to those things. It's really, really difficult to hear what is going on, and to see what people are reflecting about who we are being. But definitely when we've done the work around forgiveness, and then we can hear it, we do get a view. And also, I know one of the things through some of the forgiveness things that I've done, the other side of the coin, one of the things that I really, really noticed, and this definitely started for me with self-forgiveness, was also self-acknowledgements. Like, I
Yeah.
think we are very, very good at being incredibly down on ourselves in our society. And not, if someone pays us a compliment, we are not very good at kind of saying, oh yeah, thank you very much, that's really nice of you to say that about me. We're kind of like, oh no, oh well, oh, and I really see that that's not good for us. Acknowledgements are so beautiful, they really lift us up and help us. And so both giving acknowledgements to people and receiving and accepting acknowledgements,
Yeah.
I think that is is hugely beneficial to us as human beings.
Yeah, and being able to acknowledge ourselves, the the whole thing of I guess we're all trying to run away from the idea that pride is a sin. I mean, it was certainly drummed in, when I was a kid. Pride was don't there's something wrong about being proud, or don't blow your own trumpet.
Yeah, don't boast.
Don't boast. There's all that whole
Yeah.
thing. When actually, when you own your own talents and brilliance with humility,
Yes.
it's important. And
Incredible.
that's when you can start to be really, or it's one of the ways, one of the roads to real authenticity. Yes, I have the humility to I'm not going out there and kind of going, well, I'm better than you, me. And being honest and owning my abilities, my skills, my talents, and figuring out ways to express them in the world.
I think there's something really, really beautiful in that, because I know for me, understanding know thyself being a deeply spiritual thing, it is a part of that. There are such nuances with all of these things. Like you say, there is a beautiful balance. I know, like, where I came into this, I had been a victim of abuse, so there was like abuse and the bully, and I could see they were just both extremes, and then in between there's a beautiful place of balance. That, if we can live there. And to me, again, it's not about making somebody, a lot of those terms that we use make it look as if one person is better or worse than the other, but it's just like, if you're at either extreme of any of these things, and like we've been talking about, if you're boastful and you're prideful, you're at one end of this. And if you are, I don't even know what the word of it is, but if you won't ever take any, acknowledgements or anything, and neither one of these are a good place to be. But that place that you describe, it's a beautiful place of balance of, it doesn't make me better than you, superior to you. It's just like, with a humility, yes, I'm actually incredibly good at this, so I'm going to express this and do this. And I think that is the part of our learning, to express, the world, those gifts have been given to you to express them out in the world. You absolutely, you don't want to be this prideful person who's ramming them down every bit, or think you're amazing and better than anybody else. And you equally don't want to be this person who doesn't think they're good enough and doesn't think that they should show up and express the gifts that they have been given. So the knowing of ourselves and the seeing those nuances is massive, isn't it? It's like, wow, that's another whole eye-opening experience to be had.
It's funny, actually, I didn't expect that I would end up talking about aloha in this conversation, but we've kind of got there. So the word aloha in Hawaiian means welcome, love.
Oh, yeah.
If you walk into a hotel, they say aloha, so it's kind of hi, it's bye,
Yeah.
all of that.
Hello, welcome, come in.
But there's also a lot of different schools of Hawaiian thought have different acronyms for aloha, so different deeper meanings of aloha. And in the lineage that I've studied with, we have so the A is ala, so there's watchful alertness. L is lokahi, so cooperation, coming together, working together, collaboration. The O is oiaio, which is truthfulness. The H is ha'aha'a, which is humility. And the final A, there are various interpretations of that. One is amama, which is sacrifice, not in a kind of victim sacrifice, but the acknowledgement of any choice we make, the thing we choose, we sacrifice the thing that we choose.
There's limitation in choice because we have to
Yeah, that's one meaning of the last day. That there are others. Another one is light, because we are beings of light, and acknowledging and owning the idea that we are of the light. And that, I love the fact that it combines both what we were just talking about, really, the truthful honesty, this is who I am, these are my skills, my abilities, my gifts, and then the humility, because they are, yes, I've worked on developing them, but to a certain extent they are God-given, source-given, divine-given, whatever your word for that higher power is. Yes, I can develop them, but there are also some that I kind of came in with them.
We all have our callings, and again, it is seeing that none are better than others. To me, it makes me think, I was talking to someone, we were talking about a jigsaw puzzle, and it is like we are all part of a giant jigsaw puzzle, and the piece that we bring is equally if you're doing a jigsaw puzzle and there's one piece missing, I don't know if ever, when we used to go on holiday and we would all as a family get together and do the puzzle, and then at the end, if there's one piece missing, it's irrelevant which piece it is. It's not like, oh, it doesn't matter that piece is missing. If there's a piece missing, there's that, and it's like seeing we are all those pieces, and they are equally important. They play a different role, they're a different part of the picture, they do something different, but the picture isn't whole if there's a piece that's missing. And to me, that is, if we don't express our beautiful gifts, whether it's saving the entire world, or us being a stay-at-home mum, or working at McDonald's, it really it's not, that's irrelevant. It's like what is within you that is calling you to do something. And I know, I can see we all have this idea that, oh yes, if I can announce that I'm saving the entire world, that's surely far better than working at McDonald's. But it's like, no, what is your calling? What are you doing? And it goes back again, whichever piece of that jigsaw puzzle was missing, we'd all be searching around the floor for it. We'd all be on our hands and knees and looking in the box and checking everywhere, because whatever piece is missing would feel equally important.
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked in McDonald's. I was really bad at it. It's designed, the system is designed that a trained monkey can operate. You're good at following instructions, trained monkey, it works. Me, I need to understand exactly why I'm doing these before I can do it. So I'd be going through the process to create my burgers, and I'd do things like, I'd end up with, so you'd have the bottom of the burger flat and the stuff in the middle, and then the top of my burger would be that way up instead way up. or vice versa. I was such rubbish at it, they ended up putting me on fries, chips.
Could you not do those wrong?
No, I just burnt myself.
Oh no. But then it is seeing what our calling is, and owning, there is nothing wrong in any of these things. It's not. And again, it comes neatly and beautifully back round to forgiveness and the judgments we have, isn't it? It's like, just be who you were born to be who you want to create yourself with the potential that you have.
Absolutely.
I have really enjoyed our conversation. I've loved where we've gone. I've loved your sharing of that's not most of what you shared. It's not the Hawaiian stuff. It's not really somewhere I've been. It's not something I've delved into. So that has been like an eye-opener and huge. I've really enjoyed. I know the Ho'oponopono. I've heard of that, but
let me help.
Yes.
Ho'o. Pono.
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 Pono. Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, there you go.
I had heard of that actually through, as you say, Joe Vitale, because I think he has made that quite accessible to everyone, hasn't he? But yeah, it's been a delight and a pleasure to hear your sharing of that, and to realize your deep knowledge of all of that. That is beautiful. So I am very grateful that we connected and that we had this conversation, and I'm excited for your book. So if people wanted to know more about you, to contact you, how can they find you? Where would they find you? What?
So, I mean, the good start's always the website, which is drjanelewis.com. So Dr. Jane, Jane, Lewis, Lewis.com. And there's various pages and bits and pieces on there where you can look. You can, if you on there. If you go to the resources page on there, you can download a forgiveness meditation that I've done, self-forgiveness meditation.
Wow.
You can find me on Facebook, where I'm Jane P. Lewis, because Jane Lewis is a very common name, so distinguish itself in different ways. Same on LinkedIn. I'm Jane P. for Patricia, Jane P. Lewis. And those are the kind of obvious, easy ways. Or email me, jane@drjanelewis.com. Always happy to chat, book a call, have a conversation to see how I can help, to see what can be done. And yeah, I run courses. I do coaching. I run courses. Some of them are very HUNA specific, and some of them are not quite so much. So I do one called Release and Reclaim, which is a journey through the chakras, where we do some forgiving in each chakra and some release work in each chakra, so that we really move the energy in the different chakras, so that people are better at manifesting, better at manifesting, better at speaking out.
Wow, wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. I will put as much of that information under this video, but if for any reason you're not watching it in a place that you can see it, hopefully there was some information there. Thank you so much for your time and this beautiful conversation. It's been incredibly inspiring. Thank you very much.
And thank you for inviting me, and I've really, really enjoyed talking.
Cool.